we have the next presentation that will be handled by a gentleman who we have here with us. Mr. Bob Cheng is a longtime friend in the DNS space. I mentioned earlier his roots and connection to ICANN. He is here in his individual capacity, but I'm sure he will be speaking from his wealth of experience in the industry. Bob makes his home and works out of Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya. And if you happen to want to find out anything about ICANN in Africa, you probably would have interacted with Bob at one time or the other. And if it's something that you intend doing in future, right here and now, you have a first-hand opportunity of meeting and interacting with him. The bios have been sent out to each and every one of us. You can read it up again. Over to you, Bob. Very happy that you're here, and please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lawrence, for that detailed introduction. I don't envy you with your mastery of this language that came via the ships. But I know you said some true things, like me being a friend. I am not sure about the other ones. And congratulations for making this happen, and happy to be here. I'm not sure if I will match up to what Eli has done, but probably I would then, faced with such a challenge of, magnanimous quantity, try to chart a different path so that, the participation might not, link me with Eli, because I am afraid that might be disastrous. My name is Bob. Maybe I'll also get right to share my screen, so that I share a few slides that I have. And maybe as that right is granted, I also note I have 15 minutes, and I'll try as much as I can to finish within that. Discussing anything domain names is a hobby, and I'm happy to join such a discussion at any time. Because where I sit, this is precisely, what we are trying to achieve, especially in my role at ICANN. Elias talked very broadly and, also in detail, and given actually examples of how he thinks we can achieve concrete case studies that really depict what he thinks is the potential of domain names. In Africa, as you will see very shortly, this is a question that we have been discussing for a very long time. Eli says we get our domain names. I would modify that a bit and actually insist that probably we should be very specific on which domain names we want. And in this case, look at African names. And I'm saying this in my individual heart, because I should not be hard saying that. But I want to be selfish on this webinar and actually try to promote African names. And for a very good reason, because of what we are trying to do for the last few years. There has been questions in the past, is there a domain name market in Africa? Or that market, if at all it exists, it is only possible if certain things were adjusted, when you look at the numbers I'll share very shortly, one asks whether Africa at this stage, in terms of the DNS industry, the domain name industry, risks losing it all. And what do I mean by losing it all? Our breakfast went a long time ago. And we are actually struggling to keep our dinner, as far as this industry is concerned. So it begs our, attention, be you private sector, and I congratulate you. It has a great potential to really change our course as far as economics is concerned. So I was talking about, a regular sequence of promises every electioneering period. One of the promises that we do get is the promise of jobs. But it never really appears that the domain name industry offers, an opportunity to satisfy that promise of jobs. Probably when you look at the numbers, look at what Africa is doing or how Africa is faring vis-a-vis the potential that exists there, then maybe, one of the solutions to this jobs pandemic is right here in the domain name industry. And the question is whether, we have grabbed it or whether we actually even see it in the first place. So thank you very much. I'll share a few slides very fast, and hopefully that drives my points home. I hope it can be seen.
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you very much. So, I wanted to look at the domain names and business and look at the industry, both from a global perspective, a regional perspective, and maybe lastly, if time allows, a national perspective, so that we can see how well we are doing or how poorly we are doing, depending on which, point of view you want to take, or depending on where you sit. How does the global scenario look like? And I'm just rushing through. Today, as we speak, as at Q4 of 2020, this is end of December last year, we have a total registration of 366 million or thereabout. Total registrations across all domain names. By the way, all domain names here, we are talking about country code specific names, which we normally refer to as CCTLDs, or generic names, or what we call in short GTLDs. I would try to avoid the acronyms because not every participant here might be familiar with that. So we have two broad categories of domain names, generic names, which don't give a sense of which country or territory that domain name comes from, or country code names, for example, .ng, which we all understand means or would potentially refer to Nigeria. We call those country code names of CCTLDs. The combined registration as at end of December last year was 366 million. Now, if you are to break down this number, you will agree with me that our breakfast is gone and our lunch is also gone as far as this industry is concerned. The question is whether we can salvage our dinner. That is if you are interested. Otherwise, I am very sure there are very many more, interested parties elsewhere. Okay? The question is, it is up to us. If you to break that number, you'll realize that out of 366 million domain names, 2 TLDs or top-level domain names account for over 166 or over 165 million. That is .com and .net combined. So I'll pause there and reflect on what that means in terms of economics. Nigeria today, is, I would say, averagely 200 million people. Or you could also say that Africa is averagely 1.2 billion people. Now, if you take the economics of a domain name, you pay for a domain name, and we've had some numbers here of how domain names have been sold for, as high as 200 million or 20 million. At ICANN, we have sold a top-level domain name at auction at over 100 million, if you know the story of .app. But I digress. I want us to focus on this. If you had a company or a registry, or NIRA for this case, with 166 million domain names, okay? And each domain name costs $1, just $1. That puts NIRA with at an annual turnover of $166 million. All of us here would at that point want to be the CEO of NIRA. How many companies in Nigeria today boast of a turnover of 160 million and not Naira, but dollars? That is the promise of a domain name. Today, this is VeriSign, somewhere in the US that has got these figures. So, is there money in the domain name industry? Can it make sense? If we became serious, there's nothing that stops us from doing the same. Some of us say, or some people say that our domain names are expensive. Well, and because this is Nigerians we are talking to here largely, I think we can argue about expensive. They normally say it depends with your point of view. Expensive is relative. But $1 for the cost of a domain name is really, really relative if you say it is expensive. But even if it were expensive, can we agree not to expect domain names to be free? Because others say, so why should I pay when I can register an email address, wherever we normally register them? I will not say for free. My good friend, former board of NIRA, whom you know very well, Oga Sunday, has this famous saying that he normally tells us that even in Freetown, Sierra Leone, nothing is for free. Free doesn't exist. If you tell me something is free, or if somebody told you something was free and you accepted it, then, but I digress. But you can see where I'm going with that. There is nothing for free wherever you think you're getting a free service. Probably you could be actually paying much, much more than you know. Why is it so difficult to feel proud, of paying for something that builds our own? If you buy a .ng, that money goes to Nigeria, to NIRA, to pay people there, to pay services there. Some of those services get back to the very economy. If you buy any other domain name that is not an African domain name, that money goes out of Africa, not only out of your country, but out of Africa. That is just the reality of this industry. But then don't quote me. I was just saying. I would further want to break this figure down. I'm not sure if I can move slides. Okay. Now, so out of those 366 million domain names to date by current registration, if you look at the top 10 registration, something will strike you there. First of all, you will note that most of those domain names are country code names, the ones that are only 2 letters. Actually, it is 7 names out of the 10. So only 3 are GTLDs, .org, .net, and .com in the top 10. Because we have always, assumed that we cannot beat .com, in African CCTLD speak. Or, .com is the only domain name of preference. But how did 7 CCTLDs make it to the top 10? That should speak to us about the potential of our country code names. I will go further and present now only CCTLDs in the top 10 out of that registration. Again, you will see that, nothing from Africa exists in the top 10 by registration. So if I take .cn, which is the China country code names, so today they have roughly 24 million domain names. That is an organization that is a very good employer to very many people. And by the way, a registry has an ecosystem around it, website developers, app developers. It is an ecosystem. So by the time, you fully merge or calculate the actual contribution of the domain name, subsector in any digital economy, so to speak. So if you were to look at the contribution of .ng, you have to go beyond what is the registration of .ng. You have to go to how many people, use .ng. To what extent does it serve government? To what extent, does it, give opportunities to, young innovators to, do websites and innovate around .ng? So it is a whole ecosystem that, if supported properly, has the potential of really contributing to our IGDP in our various economies. But you'll see that today, nothing from Africa exists in the top 10. So to finalize, because of time, this is how Africa looks like today. We have around, so I can lead a study in the year 2006, and I can bet that very little has changed to date. We have around 52 or 53 thereabout functional, registries. We do have around 55 or 54 countries in Africa. So thereabout, everyone has got a functional CCTLD registry, meaning you can register your own country code name. Okay. But out of that, to date, or at the time this report was published, only around 5 million domain names could be attributed to having been registered in the African namespace. In fact, for CCTLDs alone, that went to below 3.5 million, because out of the 5 million, around 1.5 million were taken up by generic names. So you then have around 3.5 million. Out of that 3.5 million names registered in African CCTLD namespace, almost 2 million are taken by one country, which is South Africa, under .za. That leaves us with a paltry 1.5 million to share across over 50 countries, including my Yoga brothers from Nigeria, who boast of the biggest economy in Africa. I believe something is right, not wrong somewhere. Or if it is wrong, we are about to make it right, isn't it? In other words, if I don't take a lot of time, I'm just trying to point out that this industry has a potential. So to the myth that .com cannot be beaten, in 2018, AFNIC, the .fr registry, did a very, comparative study. Just trying to confirm whether .com is really dominant, so to speak. If you look at the various regions, Africa, Latin American and Caribbean, Asia Pacific, Europe, North America, and you look at the contribution of their CCTLDs vis-a-vis .com, in Africa, cumulative, our CCTLDs contribute to 55% of the domain names registered in Africa. .com only contributes to 36%. In fact, the only continent where .com is dominant is in North America, where it contributes for 76% of the names registered. So why do we fear .com? It is a mentality that we can actually reverse, because as we speak, our registrations are too low even to speak about. But then we can look at that as an opportunity to actually register, but very biased, register our own, register our domain names. And if that happens, I believe there'll be a significant contribution, to our economies from the domain name subsector. This is an industry. This is a business with a whole ecosystem around it that is properly supported by the private sector, by the government, can contribute equally, just like any other sub-economy within any particular nation. And Nigeria, I think, stands a big chance to really lead in this sector, because if only 50% of Nigerians registered .ng, I would be looking at 100 million domain names under .ng. Then I can actually apply to be the CEO of NERA. Thank you very much, Lawrence, and I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, Bob. That was really helpful. There couldn't have been a better way, to put those figures in perspective. And yes, you're welcome to be the CEO of NERA. Don't wait until we hit 5 million. But you make very important points here, and there are some, even for me, there are some of this information that I'm seeing in some new light. Thank you for that detailed presentation. For those who have asked, yes, we will make these presentations available after the meeting, and we will also share the contact detail of the facilitators for those of you who would want to get in touch with them for a one-on-one session or to ask some questions. Please definitely, if you do, give some time, be patient and give some time for them to get back. Let's not forget that each of our facilitators are very busy. They have day jobs that keep them engaged, and they might only be able to answer to some of this, answer to your inquiries at some free period of their day. So patiently, if you reach out to any one of them, please be patient to wait for a response.